hope you all are doing very nice. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction. So, after such a great presentation of Tilotoma ma'am, I would like to take the hands-on session of Python. So, I want to start telling that how this Python, the basic functionalities work. And I would go through a very basic introduction and very basic hands-on session where I will be saying and also showing you different codes like how what is a variable initialization and then how to initialize a string, how to work on strings, and what is function, what is tuple, what is list and dictionaries. Basically, Python, as we have already seen from the last presentation from ma'am, that it is an open source one, and you can code in it in a very flexible way. It is a very user friendly. So whatever you code, it's less like an user interaction. You just write something and you get an output. So it is a very easiest way to start way with your programming language. And also a very important thing, it is a very powerful tool because it has been into many different fields. Like Python uh, has the implementation in ML, in MI, in AI, and also at the kind of like where different other web scrapings. Then a few other different technical things where Python plays a very important role because of its simplicity. So let's first start with the like coding part. Like I have a notebook, and one more thing, like all these notebooks and everything you will find in the classroom, in the Google Classroom. So if you go over here, I will show you. You will get this material in demonstration folder. In the demonstration folder, you will find two different files, Python coding assignment 1 and 2. So this I will be explaining to you right now, but even for the later use, you can use it for your reference. And on this assignment, which I will be showing right now, we will have assignment 1. Okay, so the assignment 1 is the same thing that I'm showing right now. So all you have to do is uh, focus right now what all the things that I'm discussing, and the same thing you are going to do in the assignment 1 that you need to submit in Google Classroom. Okay, so first let me start with this. Okay, one more thing is, when you are clicking on over there, it also has a reference video I made, that how to import this assignment things into your Google Colab. Just give a right click to this, open it into a new tab. Okay, so it will ask you for this option, open with a Google Colaboratory, if you have an account in it. If you do not have an account, there is also one installation video that Tilottama ma'am has posted in the classroom itself. So you can refer that also, where you need to just make one account and log in through that. So simple. So here we open our notebook. Okay, so first we have a general intro, like what is Jupyter basically. So let me talk like what is Jupyter, what is the Jupyter notebook, and why do we prefer using a notebook and all. We can also perform this Python programming in our command prompt, in our Python shell that is there in our local system. But one thing is, like Jupyter gives a very, like a very flexible way of programming. You can have your different programming language skills over here. Like as it is telling, it is an acronym of Julia, Python, and R. So basically, it supports this three types of programming language. So Python, here what all you have to do, it's a very easy way of programming, where you just have to write your Python code and just do a shift enter. So that shift enter is nothing but you're running the cell. Okay, so you will have different cell operations. So I can throughout this notebook you can see this is a different cell, this is one cell, this is another cell. So like this we have different cell, and whatever the code that we write in each of the cell, we don't need to compile for the like in C and Java you need to compile and then you do the interpretation and all. Here it is an automatic. So what you do is just a shift and enter, and it does that for you. So now for this topic today's, we will going to discuss about the variable. input output data type, how we are doing the conversions, and also one more thing like Python objects, what are the different objects. And as we know, Python is an object oriented programming, just like a Java, but still its object orientation is very easy to handle. And we will talk about mutable immutable data, operation, arithmetic operation, comparison, logical operation, and we'll go through the different looping structures. Also, the most important part that we will complete here is the different list range. I mean, we use the different range techniques like list, tuple, dictionaries, and these are very important from the machine learning side, because all we need to do is to handle a data. Okay, that is the basic fundamental thing that we need for a machine learning task. So when you have a lot of data, what you do is you handle the data. And for handling the data, you use Python programming. Simple. But to do that, you need different kind of operations on the data. You need to clean the data. You need to, modify the data. Your data will not be in a in a very clean way to you. It will be very raw. So you need to make different operations on the data to make it worthy of making building a model, a machine learning model, and use it for a machine learning algorithm. So we will first see how from the basic level how we need to store the variables. So as you can see over here, I guess everyone can see my screen. uh, is it visible, right?
Yes,
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 ma'am.
it is
Oh,
visible.
okay, okay, thank you. So you can see over here like how the storing of the data. I have taken three different examples, like one integer, one float, and another a string. So X is storing one integer variable, Y is storing one float variable, and S is storing one string variable. Okay, so it is a very simple way of doing. You do not have to do write any kind of other language, or you need to parse the variable types and all. So you just need to give an equal sign which you need to assign for the variable. So like x equal to 10, y equal to 2.5, s equal to hello world in a double quotation. So once you give this, it gives the it makes an compiler to understand that okay, so this 10 which is coming to this x is an integer. Fine, I will assign it. When it is coming 2.5, it itself understands that it is a float variable, so it assign it. And similarly, for any kind of double quotation or a single quotation, also you can use the word which is coming to the compiler. It understands that okay, it is a string variable, so it assigns as a string. So you don't have much work to do over here. So if I run here, I will get it stored. Okay. Next, to print. So basically, we all are using Python 3 right now. So when we are printing as Python in Python 3, we need to give this parenthesis, which in Python previous versions we need not to give. So if we print this, let us see what it prints. So see, x is printing as 10, and also we have also tried printing the type of x, what type of variable this x is, and it is printing the class type is integer. Similar for the y is 2.5 and the class type is float, and for the s is hello world and the class type is string. Let's go for the next example. So we have some arithmetic operations over here. So x1 is a variable where I'm storing 3 plus 5, y1 3 minus 5, y2 5 minus 3. So various operations like subtraction, multiplication, then addition, division, so and square. So these are the different operations that it is powerful to operate. Now let's run what it is printing. It is printing sum as 8 because in x1 we have 3 plus 5. Simple, right? Okay. How do we find remainder? So 14 remainder 4 is 2. Now let's do some comparison like equal, not equal, greater than or equal. So these are the basic comparisons that you will follow in any programming language, whether be it C or Java or anything. Similar for the Python, it's just the variation of the syntax. Syntactically, it is just different. Else, the logic is all over the same. So we have the logical operations like and or not and boolean data type. This is also important. So we have here x equal to 2, y equal to 3, z equal to, okay, let us solve this. Z equal to x greater than 3, okay, and x equal to 2. So what it does is x greater than 3, that means 2 greater than 3. No, this condition is not satisfied. Comes to the next condition, x double equal to 2. Yes, condition satisfied, but there is an and in between. So it has to have a satisfaction from both the condition. If it doesn't satisfy any one of it, the Boolean return will be false. So here when we run this, our answer is false. We'll go for the immutable and mutable data types. Okay, so what is an immutable and mutable data types basically? Immutable data type is a kind of data type which you cannot change the like something like which I am storing as an integer, you cannot change it to float, or again if I am storing it as a float, I cannot change it to integer. So these are like immutable. This is like you cannot change. Whereas mutable is something like it is flexible of changing its data type from one form to another form. So I'll run this. A is taking as 3 and it is an integer. B is taking as A. That means B is supposed to be also an integer. So integer data type, B is also coming as an integer because B is taking the value of A, which is an integer. So ID of A and ID of B is the like at what data type these two are taking. So both are of the same kinds, both are of the similar kinds. So it will return a true. So there are various other examples of mutable, immutable data types. Okay, now I'll come to the important part of this Python. It is the list. Okay, so list is nothing but an array. Okay, so when we have an array in C or Java, we do need to write a lot of programmings and a lot of line of codes. But in Python, the work becomes very easy because it represents in the form of a list that is in a square bracket, and most interestingly inside the square bracket of list you can put any kind of data type, like it can be a mixture of integer, string and float. Also it can be a homogeneous also, like all the strings together, all the floats together, else all the integers together. So this is the flexibility that list gives, and also its syntax is very easy to understand and also to code. Like just give a variable name, that is the name of the list, which assign to the in the square brackets what all the list items you want to assign, and then printing of the a as well as the type of the variable. So you can check over here, print a1. So it is printing that a1 and also the type of A1. What is this kind of type of this A1 variable is? So it is list. Now how the compiler is understanding that it is an list? Because of the square brackets that I am giving. Okay. So it is also doing the same thing. So B1 is taking A1, the value of A1, and B1 type it is taking, it is also a list because it is taking A1, which is a list. And yeah, see this ID of A and A1 and B1. So in this ID we can see, like the storage elements where the storage ID is. Basically we in C we call it as a pointer. So the same thing, like in ID we can see in which ID it is located, A1, and it is in the same ID where B1 is also located because we have made B1 equal to A1. So it is a mutable. Okay. So in the list, what do we, which elements did we have? 1, 2, and 3. So there are various operations in list that we can do. So if we want to delete one, delete one item from a list, what do we call? It is a pop. The function is a pop. So pop will do what? It will eliminate the last element from the list. So if we have element the last element from the list, which is 3, because our list was 1, 2, and 3. So our present list become 1 and 2 because the last element is popped out. Okay. So we will see how the type conversion happens, how the data type conversion happens. Like in integer, float, and string, these are the different functions we give. Like suppose we have a string variable. See, for a string variable, we have 34. Okay. Now we want to convert it into a string. So what do? We just give a string integer function, and within which we assign that value. So it gives a string value, sorry, an integer value of 34. Same, if we want to go for a 34.56, which is a float variable, and we are passing that as a parameter in the string function, we are explicitly converting the data type into a form of string. So our result is coming as a string variable. Okay. Yeah. Now our how do we take inputs? Like every time in the code we give input and all, but from the real time perspective, we also sometimes need to give our input from command line argument. Okay. So what if we take an input from outside? So all you have to do is you have to give a function name as input, and once you are assigning a variable with that input function, that is x equal to input that function, that means that x has to be given an input from outside. So if I am storing an input variable, see suppose I am giving 9, okay, and my x is 9. That means in input where it was asking me one command line argument, which character, I mean which digit you want to input, I gave 9 as my input, and once I'm printing that, I'm getting the value of 9. And similar for the type of x. And yeah, one more thing, when you are giving an input, this is a very important thing. When you are taking this input function, okay, when you are taking an input function into an x, initially that x is considering that input, either be it an integer or float or string, always by default it considers it into a form of a string. So whenever you are initializing any kind of variable, any number or any float number, your value will always be by default the type is string. So let's go. Yeah, there is. Okay, we will come to this in the later part of our lecture, where we will be talking about matplotlib, where we will see all the visualization together. And yeah, so if x is greater than 0, then I will print it as a positive. Else, so we will come into a ladder structure of if and else. Okay, so in if and else, what we see, if some condition is satisfied, it will do some operation, else it will do another set of operation. Similarly, in our code we have, if y equal greater than 0, then it will print as it is as positive, else it will print it as negative. So we have various examples of if and else statement. So I'm leaving these things for you to explore in your assignment 1. I'll jump here in the list category. Okay. So how do I basically use one list? I have a list of A, E, I, O, U, all the set of vowels. Now, how do I want to basically select any item from the list? So for doing that, we call it a slicing. Okay. So what we have is list one. That means always our list start with an index number of 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it continues. In our list, we have A, E, I, O, U. So the index position of A is 0, E is 1, I is 2, O is 3, U is 4, and so on. So when I'm printing the vowel list, that means the list, the variable which contains the list of 1, that means the index position at 1, it should return me the value of E. The value is E. Now, what we do when we go for a slicing operation is something like when we want to take some part of the list, not the entire list. Maybe I want to take the last two part of the list or the first two elements of the list or in between some element of the list. So when we do that, we do slicing, and that we do by using a colon operator. Okay. So we want to print the list from 1 to 3. So now here the thing is our starting value is 1 and the ending value is 3. But we should also keep in mind one thing. If 3 is the ending value, it takes the element from the ending value minus 1 position. That means till 2 it will take. So 1 and 2. Okay, so it 1 it is E and the next is I. So 1 and 2. But the limit has to be the number of items you want plus 1. So what happens if we give minus 1? The list elements will take from the backward. That means we will get the last element. From the back, we will get minus 1. From the back, 1. That is minus 1. Similar. And one more thing, if we are leaving any element with a colon, either you leave the colon at the right hand side or you leave the colon at left hand side. And that means what I'm trying to say is like suppose 1 colon or colon 1. That means what? Colon will specify all the items after that. Okay, I'll show you. See, what I have done is minus 2 was my limit. That is the ending limit. And my starting limit was colon. Colon means every element from the first. The first is when it is colon. That means every element from the first has to be there till minus 2. My minus 2 is what? U. Sorry, O. So that's why I have this list of A, E, I. I can modify my list also. I have a list of like 1, 3, and 4 as it is num list. It is initialized, but from the zero value I want to make it 2. So num list is becoming when once I am updating my num list, it is becoming 2, 3, 4. Now it is no more 1, 3, 4. It is 2, 3, 4 because it got modified. So there are various other listing, other slicing techniques that you will go through. So yeah, even yes, range is function is something when we take a, this is something we take a list. Okay, so I'm writing in suppose I want a number from 1 to 10, so I'm making a list 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. No need, we don't have to do that. If we have a function called range, in range if we are particularly mentioning the start and the end value, suppose like in range function I am mentioning start as 1 and end as 10. So what will happen, it will take all the values from 1 to 10. Okay, so that's why this range function is powerful. So yeah, and range will also, and if you want to keep all the range element, because in range all the elements will come sequentially like one by one, but you want to take them into a form of list, then what you want to do, you just put your range into your list function so that you will get all the elements together in a list form. Okay, so here you can see my range value is still 10. That means from 0 to 10, 0 to 9, I will get 10 elements. And this I'm putting inside one list variable so that I'm getting into a form of a list. And one more thing, in the range also we also have one parameter like a skip value, like a jump value. When we do a looping structure, what we do, like we initialize our loop variable into something, and then we see what is the end value, and then we also give a looping variable which loops either by one element or two element. So here the same way our looping variable is the third element. Here we can give two, that means it will skip each and every element, add two elements together, and it will show the next element. So if I give from 2 to 10 with a jump element of 2, that means it will print 2, jump 2 elements, 4, again jump 2 element, 6, again jump 2 element, and 8. So till 8 it will show, but it will not show 10 because the list is till 9. We have initialized with 10, that means previous to that value is my 9, and 9 is not a jump element, and once it is not finding the jump element, so it will stay where, till whatever it was previously. So same goes for different thing. I'm keeping all these things for you, okay? And one more thing, this append. Append is something like when you are adding one. It's a function when you are adding one element to the list. Suppose I have 48, 8, and 5. I want to append 6. That means what it will give me: 48, 8, 5, and one element 6. So append is when I'm adding an element, and extend is a function when I'm joining to different lists. Like I have a list 859 and I want to join it with my previous list which is having 45, 8, and 5. So when I'm joining this to list, it will give me 45, 8, 5, which also has 6 because I appended 6, and then the next list, that is 859. Okay, so this was one of the assignment that I have already uploaded in your classwork. So you have to go through this assignment and also run the cells and understand. Basically, the most important thing is understand the logic behind the operation, what it is happening. And another one was there which I have completely made for the string operations, because string is something which we like we work it every time with machine learning. We have to work a lot of things with strings. So string handling is an important part in Python. So also it also has some different things of dictionaries and tuples. So I would come to them one by one. Let me first go through the strings. So yeah, I have initial, as I have already told about initializing string. I'm not repeating it again. Like how to initialize string. S is one of the string. S1 is another string. S2 is the third string. So like that, there are three different strings. And if I want to access this S10, so what I'm going to get, what is S10 is, that means in S1 I have initialized welcome to ML using Python workshop. So this W is my first character in this S1 string, so it will return W. So similarly, you guys can go through this the other steps. And also we have, yeah, the same slicing that I have explained in the list function. The same goes with the string as well. It will take an start value, it will take an end value, and it will give return whatever the value it is inside. And if it is using the colon, that means it is taking from that point of time the entire string. Okay. So my S2 is welcome to ML using Python's workshop. S2 2 to 8 will give me only LCOME, and S2 from 2 to the entire is C. You can see over here LCOME, and then the entire thing came. Okay. So I guess you can relate from my last explanation. And yeah, for the string, this is one important thing. When you want to use a lowercase or uppercase, the case varies. The case sensitive things happens in the string. So you can make an entire string into a, like to lowercase, an entire string into an uppercase. So for that, you need different functions. So these are the functions that we generally use. How do we use that? Our string name dot, then the function name. We want to use a replace function over here, like we want to replace the w's with all the t's, so we can do that. So our w's will be replaced with t. So in place of welcome, we can say telcome. So yeah. And yeah, string data type is mutable. This is one of the very essential part. Like it changes. Okay. So we'll come to the dictionary part. So what is dictionary? So dictionary, we have already seen what is list, right? So list is something which is an array basically. So in that we have different kinds of items. Similar is a dictionary. We also have a set of items. But in this thing, what is the specialty is we have an item and as well it is a key as well as a value. So we have a key and we have a value. That means it is something this is like a kind of stacks. Like when you have a name, like you are initializing in you are in a hospital and the people are taking a record of the patients over there. So each patient's name is associated with different histories. So in basically it does the same thing. Like it has one of the key and value. So the key is a patient name. The value is an actual name of the patient. So we'll see how it works. So if we give, you can look over here. This is a phone book which we give as an example. So if I give a phone book and we are mentioning that Goswami, which is coming as a key, and my value is this one. Okay. So I'm initializing the value of the key. I'm assigning it. Okay. Similarly, this is the value for the key Reddy. This is the value for the key Tendulkar. So when I'm printing the complete phone book, I am getting the entire history of what is the phone number of that particular person. Goswami number is this, Reddy number is this, Tendulkar number is this. So in this part, we can see update the value. So what if a person whose phone number is exchanged or it is changed. So I need to replace the number. So yeah, I can do that. Previously, my number was something 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now it has become 2 2 2 2s. So now I'm replacing them by using this um, simple this syntax. My phone number, that is the name of the dictionary, and the key value. This is a very important. We are changing the value of that particular key. So anything, whenever we want to access any particular uh, key, we always have to refer the values of the key through the key name. Okay. So it is the phone number of Reddy, and then we are changing, simply we are giving the new number. So when we are printing this, it will give the latest one, the recent one, the changed one. Okay. And one more thing, we can also add, as we have seen in the list, we can append a list. Similarly, we can also add one more element, one more key with a value in the phone book dictionary. So if I run this, you can see the previous one was this number. After changing, it has got this number. And when this Mirza, this key value has been updated, that means it has been added to my dictionary. My entire dictionary become this Tendulkar plus the new one. So it has got added. Okay. And here I am just printing what are the key values. So I can get my keys as to be this four different keys and their respective values are in this four respective. I can also delete one record from the history, from the dictionary. So if I am deleting this, like this Reddy. So my phone book is having no more Reddy here. See, now I'm again popping it out. Okay, so popping it out is something like from the, now I'm popping it out Goswami. I'm clearly giving it, popping it out Goswami. That means it is no more having the record of Goswami here. And inside these dictionaries, we can also run the structures. We can go through, it's sometime it is just a 3 or 4 keys, but when we will deal with different bigger data set and we'll have a very big data, then it is not possible for us to go through each and every key, and we have to handle that big data. So in that case, we have to go through looping structure. We have to go from one to like hundreds of data, thousands of data. So in that we have to go from 1 to 100 in a different in the looping structure. So for that, looping structure is very easy in the dictionary, where we can see for x and y, this is the way of writing in dictionary. For x and y, where these two are the looping variables in the phone book dot items, where this is the name of the dictionary and items is the like what are their elements within the dictionary. So if I'm printing this, what I'm going to get? See, you can see uh, my previously modified dictionary was having only Tendulkar and Mirza. So I will get only Tendulkar and Mirza's records over here. So I can see for X and Y, that means it is going to take this Tendulkar's record and Mirza's record. So this is pretty well fine. Okay. We'll see also the set. Set is also one of the important element where we in Python programming where we need to look into different examples when we deal with the data. So what we do is I and one more thing, if you have noticed, our dictionary was starting with this braces, our second braces. Okay, our list was starting with square braces. Set, I'm starting with parenthesis. So I'm creating a set of, this is a set of having a Mr. and Mrs. Okay. And I'm creating that as a name of a family. So family is the name of my set. I'm adding one master. So it is also the same similar kind of work that the list does, and it is also adding. So just that key, it is function name is different, and the way of representing the records, it is different. So functions is important when we are using function, like for any programming language we are going through, like function definition, function calling. If we go for C, Java, or anything, like similarly in Python also we are also having the concept of function. So for writing a function command, what you have to do is first initialize with the keyword def, because def keyword is only used to write one complete function, and then give the name of the function within parentheses, pass the argument. Okay, so if you have an argument, well and good. If you do not have an argument, still it is a function with null argument. So we have a def, name of the function x. So and then I'm returning x square, that means x multiplied 2. So this function is basically doing what? It is asking me, see, it is asking me this x value. I guess x is somewhere initialized. Okay, okay, sorry. This, yeah. So this is how I'm defining this function. Okay. Now the getMax function is what? It is having x and y. These are the two different argument which is passed. Now here within this function, I'm writing a logic of if structure. Okay. And one more thing in function is for not only for function, for any kind of Python programming, if you do, the very basic thing that you have to keep in mind is indentation. When you are having Python program so simple, you at least have to maintain some indentation to understand, and also the compiler to understand the flow of your program. So it is having x and y, and then answer 1 in this, it is calling this function. So when I'm calling this function, I just have to write the name of the function and give the value of x. So my x value is 32, and when my x value is 32, it should return 32 into 2, that is 64, and answer 2, it is giving the get max 32 and 132. So it is asking if x is greater than y, that means 32 is greater than 132. Answer should be, it should return x. That means if 32 is greater than 132, it should return a true value. That means the true value is if it is greater, then it should return 32, and if it is smaller, obviously which it is, so it will return the answer 2. That means it will return this y is what, 132. So you can see the answer is this thing only. So these are few programs that we have kept. And also, yeah, we can do file handling using Python. That is a very basic thing that you need to know, because whenever you have a lot of data, you need to file them, you need to keep it into the file and handle them. So these are the several things that when you this part is anyway I'm going to cover in my next lecture of pandas, and don't worry about this part if you're not getting also. So I guess I have reached the end of the book. Yeah, so these were the two files.
Uponika,
Yeah, ma'am.
Uponika, you have to cover that one, like upload that file. You remember? You told you will tell later.
Upload the data set.
Data file or if then else dot png. The error was
Okay.
coming now.
Ha.
OpenCV.
Okay, okay, yeah. So when you're using a Google Colab, yeah, when you're using a Google Colab, you will have a file button over here. Okay, file button. So just click on the file button, and whatever, suppose if it is asking you a PNG file or it is asking you a data set. So what you need to do, there is an upload button. So just click on this upload button. It will open your local system file history, all the different files and that you need to do. So suppose I want to upload any file, like suppose see, I can go, and yeah, I can go for this. This is a CSV file and importing. So this has got imported. You can see it is added in my directory. So that means this is the notebook, and in the left side is my directory, which will contain all the required files that I need to work in this notebook. So to load all the files, we need to upload from our local system. Okay, we need to upload from our local system, and we can use it in our notebook. But make sure one thing: once you are restarting your notebook or you are again logging into your notebook, again you need to import the file, because once you are importing it, it will be lost for the particular session. After the particular session, once your session is again resumed, you need to import that file again to work on it. So this video is also there in our classroom. You can see in this, I guess in day 2. Yeah, this is in a video guide to show an import a data set. So how to import a data set. You can also refer to this video if you stuck in somewhere in between, or else you can also write in the classroom. We are there anyway to help you guys. So I guess I'm done showing this to Python codes assignment. So now you people have to need to submit the assignment, which I have already uploaded. So you can find over here Python coding assignment. So these are the two coding assignments. So as I told, you have to just do right click and open through Google Collaboratory and work on it and submit in the Google Classroom.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Uponika madam.
Thank you.
Wonderful demonstration.
Now, now we will be in the Google Classroom from what time it is? It is already 1 hour time. According
Yeah.
to the schedule, we had from 1:30.
Yes.
1:30. So yeah, we can have now the break, lunch break from 1:30 to 3. Try to finish the assignments. You just have to run those cells, and in case you get some error, you try to fix it, or we will be also in the Google Classroom. Please put your private comments. Whatever problems you have, you can go to the Google Classroom, put it in the comments. We will be logging in into the Google Classroom, and we will reply one to one. So, and then you save that once you have run all the cells, you save that as PDF and upload it in the classwork for that assignment so that we know you have come. How to access Google Colab? Mr. Shabir Hassan has told how to access Google Colab. So the videos are there in the classwork. All of you, please make a note. Use your email, Google email ID. That is @gmail.com, not @official one. It won't work. So just use the Gmail account. Go to the class code. I have given the instructions in the invitation letter. Please follow that steps where you have to go classroom.google.com, where you just put the course code. Everything is written step by step in your invitation letter. You run the cells in the assignment. You can do some tweaking also. You can use your own code also, and then then you save it as PDF and upload it in the classwork. Any questions?
Okay, madam.
Yeah, I think how to access Google Colab, we have it in the invitation.
Yes,
Invitation
madam.
letter. Okay.
Instructions are there in the invitation letter.
Invitation
And code is
letter.
also there in the invitation letter.
Yes. Once
And
you enter the classroom, everything according to day one, everything is there, and you put a private comments over there. Then we will be answering to one in the classroom. So we will be back at 1:30.
Madam, one question. Both the assignments need to be completed. No, I think.
Both assignments. See, in assignment one only there are two sheets. One is on that strings, another is on at least you do one of them. Depending on your time, at least one assignment minimum you do. If you are able to do both, that is very good for you.
Madam, again at 3 o'clock we have to meet in this with the same ID.
No. Today the session is over. We have told 1:30 to 3 o'clock, do the assignment, complete it, and then go through, please go through the PPT as well as your so many assignments that have been given. So we keep the evening free for you at your own leisure. You please go through those things so that tomorrow when we are doing the machine learning code, the Python is not becoming an obstacle. The whole Google Colab and running a Python code should be as smooth as possible by today end of the day. So that's why we have kept the second half free only in the Google Classroom, and you do your assignments. That's it.
Yeah, and also we have one session from 4 on visualization where I will be showing a small little bit about how we visualize
Yes,
the
3
data.
o'clock. 3 o'clock. I think we are coming at 3
Yeah,
o'clock.
3 o'clock, correct.
3 o'clock
Yes,
we will be coming, and there is another demo on visualization, but we
That-
do not have assignment on the visualization.
Yeah.
And there are quiz.
I'm saying,
3
madam,
o'clock we will be back.
at 3 o'clock we'll meet again in the Google Meet with the same ID. I'm saying 1:30 to
Yeah,
3 assignment 1 you have to do it in the Google Classroom. The
Yes.
participants have to do it in the Google Classroom. And
Yes.
again they have to join with the same link at 3 o'clock.
3
Correct.
o'clock, correct. And quiz, please, by tomorrow, end of the day, 5 o'clock, the quiz, whatever quiz is there, you can do that quiz by end of the, by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Quiz 1 is there for the day 1.
Yeah. So there is
Correct?
a set of 10 questions on Python programming in quiz 1 you can find. So that you can do it. It will just take 10 to 15 minutes for you to do that. So you can do and submit at whatever time you are fine to do. And make sure that you are submitting all the quizzes by tomorrow end of the day.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Panika,
Thank you.
for the
Thank you.
wonderful hands-on session. Very good.
Thank you, Tilottama madam and Uponika madam. Participants,
Thank you,
I'll share your attendance form. Okay, and a feedback form at the end of the today's session in the evening at 4:30. I'll share feedback form, and now I'll share attendance sheet for the morning session. Please fill it. Everyone, please fill it.
Okay, bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.